Dexteram Testing's Shroud of the Avatar alpha testing procedures for Release 2. Review of Release 1 issues. Initially discovered in Release 1 was an invisible object on this dock. Now removed, players have complete access to the chest. As you can see, there is no hindrance going to and from. The mouse pointer will still center when you right-click. Here's a brief look at the new list items. This is a Release 2 issue. I'll get into this in more detail later, but Release 2 essentially gave you an option between a stackable inventory, as seen in all Release 1 video reports, versus this list item. Let me rush through this a little bit and get back to where we're reviewing the first issues. That's a little sneak peek. Issue number 2 was a critical issue wherein you would fall through the horizontal plane of the environment. Here I'm walking around trying to find a good starting point. As you walk towards this hill, if you'll recall, you would fall through the environment down to a lower level. But they seem to have repaired it quite nicely. There's still an invisible wall out here that you'll run into, but at least you don't fall through the earth anymore. Several attempts were made in order to replicate the issue. Here we had a simple issue that I barely touched on, but I remembered it as I was walking past here. There was a point along this path where your character avatar would suddenly jump up to the top of the screen, and if you walked very slowly, you could find yourself positioned on an invisible pillar very high up. Here I'm just reviewing the area to make sure that it's not still like that, and it doesn't appear to be. I walked back and forth several times here, but I don't want to dull you with that, so let me move on to the next issue. It may seem mundane, but reviewing such insignificant or nearly insignificant issues as these is something an alpha tester needs to do to ensure everything is done properly. Here we revisit the section of the wall which did not appear to match up exactly, and it is still like that. There's a small gap here. It looks like it may have been moved. So this could be just a rendering issue, and maybe they'll just abut it a little bit better again in the next release. We'll take a look at that, but as you can see, the seam persists from Release 1 into Release 2. Once the review of Release 1 issues is resolved, we move on to the actual Release 2 protocols, and those include character customization and creation. So there's updated character creation. There's list item inventory versus object item inventory, which you saw briefly before. There's the ability to jump, which was added by hitting the spacebar. Your run speed was increased slightly. There's also a recipe book. I think I have some good footage of the recipe book somewhere. We'll put that in there. I'll give you a video report on that. And crafting. I didn't do very much crafting. I had difficulty trying to craft, but then again, I had limited time. I was working on another project the same weekend this came out, the same weekend Release 2 launched. However, there were several other members of the testing community who did. So I would advise you to look to them for any additional crafting pre-alpha video reports.